So we're gonna spend time today. I'm really excited about what we get to talk about. We're gonna talk about Beyond Missions, CLF's expression, one of CLF's expression of God's heart for the world around us, and really excited to get into that. Before we do that, though, I wanna take a moment. You got an annual report when you came in. And so I want to just take a moment to highlight a couple things here. Here's the deal. We're not going to read through this verbatim. You can do that on your own. You can do it on your own time. That's why we gave it to you to take home. But I want to just sort of frame it up for you as you spend some time reading through this. Approach it to celebrate what God has done. Our vision here as a church, our mission as a church is that we would be a movement of disciple makers, that we would be people who follow Jesus with all our heart, soul, mind, and strength, and then we teach and lead other people to follow Jesus with all their heart, soul, mind, and strength. That is the goal in everything that we do. And so this report is full of a lot of numbers, and it's full of a lot of pictures, and it's full of a lot of examples and stats of different things. And I just want to remind you that every example, every number in here is actually representative of names and faces and lives that are being transformed. And so it's not about the numbers that are in here, but it's about the lives that are being transformed. It's about the disciples who are becoming disciple makers. And that's what we want to make sure that we're celebrating as we look through this. So again, you'll also notice as you read through here, and I'll just kind of frame this up for you again, everything we do as a church family, we want to make sure that there's three movements that are happening. We need all three of these movements for us as a church family, and that is that we would have an upward movement, which is us towards God, communion with God, relating with Him, and allowing Him to transform us into His image, that we put His character and His nature on display. That's an upward movement. But that we would also have an inward movement, which is all of us as the people of God loving each other. When you read in the New Testament, there's all kinds of, there's boatloads of one another statements, to love one another, to forgive one another, to bear with one another. Those are all statements for how we're supposed to interact with each other as the people of God. So that's the inward movement, that we fellowship together. We love other believers, other followers of Jesus. So we have an upward movement, an inward movement, and then an outward movement, which is moving towards those who do not know Jesus, those who don't have a relationship with Him, that we don't just sit in a relationship with each other and in a relationship with Jesus, but we are moving towards those who, as we'll talk about in just a moment, are lost, those who are broken, those who do not have hope. They do not know the hope that we have in Jesus Christ. And we have a mandate to have all of those function. If we want to be a healthy church, we need to move upward, we need to move inward, and we need to move outward. And so in the annual report, you'll see the things that are being listed. They may not be labeled upward, inward, or outward, but you'll see all of those movements in all the different areas of ministry. So again, not going to read through all these, but again, kids ministry, when you read on that one, our kids gave over $5,000 towards missions. That is awesome stuff. Okay, I'm going to say, Eric, listen, we're going to celebrate a ton this morning. And so we're going to just practice this right now, okay? I want you to practice getting unhinged a little bit. You don't have to get totally unhinged, but just a little bit more unhinged than you are right now, okay? Because this is going to happen all throughout the morning where we're going to celebrate different things. And so I'm going to just kind of warm you up so, Eric, you don't have to do this later on in the service. He had to do it in first service, okay? So I'm going to say that again. And I want you to get more rowdy than what you're comfortable with. So if your comfort level's here, we just want to bump it up a notch or two here, okay? If your comfort level's here, bump it up a notch or two from there, all right? We're going to be rowdy. So our kids, children, 4, 5, 6-year-old, 10-year-old kids raised over $5,000 to give away towards missions. Yeah, there we go. Okay, this is great. That's awesome. I love it. That's great. Uncommon Youth. I mean, Bridget was talking about Winter Blitz. That was a fantastic response, by the way. That was better than I expected. I didn't have a lot of faith that my pep talk was actually working, and you guys exceeded my expectations. It was great. I love it. Yeah. It's true. So Bridget was just talking about Winter Blitz. Last year on Winter Blitz, we took almost 100, just under 100 students and leaders that had the opportunity to have their life transformed in that way. That is awesome. Celebrate it. I am commissioned into making disciples with my life now. I'm being baptized as a public declaration. 29 people made that decision last year. That's exciting stuff. It's good, all right? Now, your eyes might glaze over on this one, and you don't have to cheer about it or whatever. We're going to talk about the finances on the back just briefly, okay? Thank you. I will say this. It's a very short financial report that's here on this program. We do have a detailed 2-page report that you can get out at the welcome desk in the lobby. So if you want to, you have questions or you want more answers, you can grab that now. I will also say this. As a church family, we have our books are open. You can come in. If you have questions, Stacy Maybe is our administrative pastor. He oversees all of our books. He will be at the welcome desk. You can ask him questions there, but also at any point in time, if you want to sit down and talk about where money is going, how it's being spent, what the accountability is, because we've got great systems in place for that, you can contact the front office, set up an appointment with him. He would love to nerd out over numbers with you. Absolutely love it. It would make his day. So you can go ahead and do that. But here's the basics of this. If you look at the top, our total income is at the top. The second line from the bottom is our total expenses. You'll see there's a red number on the bottom, and nobody likes to see red when we are talking about budgets, okay? So our total income wasn't quite enough to cover our total expenses. And let me just explain how that works. So each year we are basically making a forecast in our budget going, we believe that this is the ballpark of what we as a church family are going to give in our tithes and our offerings, and then we set up a budget based off of that. And so the dollar amount that came in that was actually given as a church family last year in 2022 was about $25,000 less than what we were planning on spending. And so as we're tracking that stuff through the year, we try to make sure that our expenses are matching what our income is. And you can see that we missed by about $1,000. So we dipped into our cash reserves to cover that $1,000 or just a little bit over $1,000 to make that happen. I will say this. I'll take the opportunity to just say this. This is a good reminder for us. In case you don't know, CLF we're not supported by any outside organizational help. Like our denomination doesn't give funds to help us carry out the mission that we have as CLF. Anything that we do as a church family, we are self-supporting. So anything that we do, it comes from the giving of all of us who are a part of this church, and we give as discipline, we give as worship, we give as a regular practice to honor God with the first fruit of our earnings. And so this is a good reminder for all of us to go, it matters. It matters for us to be bringing our lives before God and going, God, I understand that you want all of me, that you want my whole life. And so you want my gifts and my talents to be surrendered to you. You want my calendar to be surrendered to you. You want my bank account to be surrendered to you. And in all these things, God, I'm going to seek you for what it is that you're calling me to do. What does faithfulness look like in my life right now? And as we all do our part, we believe that God is faithful to make sure that everything happens that he desires to have happen. So that's your annual report. Again, if you want a more detailed financial report, you can grab one at the welcome desk on your way out. So when we talked about up, in, and out, that outward movement, that's really what we're majoring on this morning. We have one of our values, like one of our core values as a church family, is that we are sent. This is what that value says. We are sent. The church is not a building, but a movement. We are sent to love our neighbors and partner with God on his mission to redeem the world. In John chapter 20, Jesus has just been arrested, and all of his followers were thrown into chaos because all of a sudden who they thought was going to be this victorious Savior gets arrested and gets falsely charged and falsely convicted, and then he's beaten and he's whipped, and then he's crucified, and they watch as their leader dies. And their whole world is turned upside down. The culture that they're in is not appreciative of the fact that they are followers of Jesus, the way of Jesus. In fact, there's hostility coming their way because of that. And then 3 days later, they start getting reports that Jesus, who they saw die with their own eyes, has actually been raised to life and has been resurrected to new life. And he's actually walking around. He's shown up to some of the disciples. There's reports that he's shown up to some of the disciples, and he's physically there where they can actually touch him and hear his voice. And so their world is like, you can imagine, their world is totally rocked. So there's like, everything's been turned upside down, and we don't know what in the world is going on, and it feels like the world wants to like hunt us down and snuff us out, and are they going to do to us what they did to Jesus? And then it's like, but there's actually victory in Jesus, and he's been resurrected and raised to new life, and what in the world is that, and what does that mean? And they find themselves in this spot, and that's the context for what we read in John chapter 20, verse 19. It says, on the evening of that first day of the week, when the disciples were together, with the doors locked for fear of the Jewish leaders, Jesus came and stood among them and said, "Peace be with you." After he said this, he showed them his hands and his side. He was showing them where the holes were from the crucifixion. And the disciples were overjoyed when they saw the Lord. Again, Jesus said, "Peace be with you. As the Father has sent me, I am sending you." Jesus steps into this room where his followers are in a hostile culture that doesn't respect what they believe or what they're doing. They're actually concerned for their safety to the point where they're locking the doors. And Jesus shows up and he says, "Peace." But he doesn't say, "Peace, you're in a safe place and just stay here in the safe place." He says, "I'm giving you peace because you're going to leave this place and you're going to go out into the world. I'm actually sending you. In the same way that the Father sent me, I'm going to send you." And when Jesus said that to his followers, that was not just a mandate for those people. That is a mandate for anyone who would ever name the name of Jesus and give their life over to Jesus. When you and I bow the knee of our hearts and our lives to Jesus and make him Lord of our life, we are automatically enrolled, whether you want it or not. We are enrolled and enlisted in the movement which is moving outward towards a world that is lost and broken and dying. God's desire is to bring redemption and to bring restoration. And that's what's being commissioned in this verse. So he's saying, listen, you feel all kinds of feelings right now, and I'm going to give you supernatural peace so you can go. I'm sending you. I'm giving you marching orders. And so when we ask the question, well, he said, as the Father sent me, how did the Father send Jesus? Well, when Jesus first showed up on the scene in the book of Luke, one of the first scriptures that he ever read out loud in a teaching kind of capacity, we find it in Luke chapter 4. He's actually, verse 18, he's actually quoting from Isaiah 61. It's a prophecy about him. And he says this, that this is how the Father sent him. And so this gives us clues for how Jesus is going to send us. He says, "The Spirit of the Lord is on me, because he has anointed me to proclaim good news to the poor. He has sent me to proclaim freedom for the prisoners and recovery of sight for the blind, to set the oppressed free, to proclaim the year of the Lord's favor." He says that about him, that's the way that the Father sent him. And then he says, and in the way that the Father sent me, I'm sending you. And so that means that if you are a follower of Jesus, that you are anointed by the Spirit of God to preach the good news, to announce it with your mouth, to demonstrate it with your hands and with your feet by your actions. He says, he sent me to bind up people who have broken hearts, to bring healing to them, to bring freedom for people who are stuck in captivity, to release people from prison and from where there's darkness, to bring light. You are empowered, all of us, we're empowered to live that kind of life. And we're not just empowered, we're commanded to live that kind of life. And Jesus doesn't just say, "Hey, you got to do this." He goes, "Hey, in the same way that God worked through me, the Father worked through me to accomplish all these things, I'm sending you," saying he's going to fill you with the Spirit to do all these things. He's going to give you everything that you need in order to accomplish these things. So we announce with our mouths, we demonstrate with our hands and our feet. This is what we've been talking about this whole year, since January. This whole concept of that we're co-laborers with Christ, that we are co-workers with him, that God is empowering us to join him in his mission. And so the message is that Jesus is the light of the world, but the method that message gets out is you. It's me. And Jesus is making it clear in this passage, listen, the method of the good news of God has been me as Jesus up until this point. And he's saying, and now it's about to pivot. And that responsibility and that privilege actually gets passed on to you. That equipping gets passed on to you and to me right now. That we are the method that Jesus chooses to use to bring the good news to the world around us. And so when we talk about beyond missions, now this is individually we need to be living this way. We're empowered to live this way. We're called to live this way. We're commanded to live this way. But it's not just individual, it's also collectively. corporately for us as an organization, as a movement of believers. And so when we talk about Beyond Missions is our way corporately, as a community, a movement. This is the way that we move out into the world around us. We'll all do it, loving our neighbors and our coworkers and our family members and the people around us. We are sent to those people in the same way that the Father sent Jesus to the world. We're sent in that way, but we're also sent as a movement, a collective of who we are as a church to reach out in that way, and that's what Beyond Missions is. This is who we've always been as a church family too, by the way. CLF was started as a church in 1979. And in 1979, and I seem to recall this, and so we have a huge binder that has like our whole comprehensive history as a church family, and I grabbed it to look back through the records. CLF, in the first year that they started as a church, and now what you got to understand is when a church is being planted, when it's being birthed, they're not exactly paragons of financial stability. They're not known for bringing in all kinds of funds, because what you end up with many times is lots of new believers who following Jesus is brand new to them, and they don't understand that our finances are actually God's as well. And so we give as an act of worship, and we give as a rhythm. It's a discipline. It's a practice for us to honor God and to fuel the ministry that he's desiring to do. And when you have new believers, they don't necessarily get that. And so when you plant a church, usually you're not bringing in money. Usually you need help from outside sources to get launched. In CLF's first year as a church plant in 1979, they gave over $15,000 towards missions. Get hyped. Come on, a little bit more. There we go. You got to get warmed up here again, okay? Over $15,000, and somebody texted in that was watching online in first service, and they were like, I think it was something like $60,000. That the what that would be now in today's dollars would be close to $60,000 that they gave as a fledgling church plant. So CLF has always had it in their DNA, we will give so that the word of God can go out to the world around us. We will not be inward focused individually, and then as a collective movement, we will not be inward focused as, well, what does this mean for CLF? But we will push out towards the margins, towards the lost, towards the broken, towards the people who have never heard. That's the impulse of this church family, and we're going to continue that. So Eric's going to come. He's going to share a bunch of stuff, but I just want to give you just a quick taste of a couple things that we have coming on the pike, some of the projects that we're going to be engaging in this next year as we all give faithfully and sacrificially. So we have a partnership with Dobie Weasel. He's come here and preached a couple of different times. A great friend of Carrie and mine, a great friend of us as a church family. He's Native American. He's got a ministry called Life Tribe, and we've partnered with him before in the past. Well, this year, he's got a specific focus. In North America, there are 32 unreached people groups. So there are 32 groups of ethnicities, groups of people that do not have an adequate witness of who Jesus is. There are not enough believers within that group of people, statistically, to bring a representation, to bring the truth of who Jesus is, and so they're considered unreached people. Of those 32 groups, 18 are Native American. So Dobie has identified 9 different tribes that this year, there's 4 in Northern California, and there's 5 in remote Alaskan wilderness that he's identified, and he is endeavoring to bring the good news and train up and equip leaders after they identify them to see disciples who multiply disciples in these places where they've been unreached up until this point. And what we're doing as a church family, he's got, I think, 4 different trips he's taking to Alaska in April and in May to do this. What we're doing as a church family is we get to have a conversation with Dobie and say, that's covered. We're going to, your budget for that, CLF is going to take care of that. Yeah, that's awesome. And we're going to give sacrificially so that he's invited Carrie and I to be a part of some of those planning and strategy sessions in Alaska to go with him. We're really excited. There are a lot of churches locally there that are trying to reach into these frontier areas and bring the good news. And so we believe that we're going to see a move of God in a powerful way that hasn't happened yet. And because of our faithful giving in this coming year, we're going to see that happen. God is going to do that. And I can't wait to be a part of it. Another thing we're doing is in Abbotsford, the population in Abbotsford, just not too far from here, the Hispanic population has exploded. The Hispanic population in Abbotsford is currently 60% of the population in Abbotsford. I had no idea that was the case. And our Hispanic church that we have here that's led by Aneta Morales, Pastor Aneta, who's on CLF's team, she has been feeling a burden to plant more Hispanic churches, Spanish-speaking churches in central Wisconsin. And so when we realized what was going on in Abbotsford, this has been in the works for a while, but she and her team are actually launching a second church plant in Abbotsford this year. They're actually going to be starting in just a couple weeks here. To launch a huge opportunity to reach all kinds of people whose primary language is Spanish. And they're rolling, and remember I said church plants need support, they need help. We're committing as a church family to give generously to see that Hispanic church plant birthed so they can put down roots and they can see people see their lives transformed in Abbotsford. So super exciting stuff. Eric's got a bunch more that he's going to share. So I'm going to stop talking and let him go.
It's great. I'm excited. It's one of these things that as a team, as we're praying and asking God, like, where are we going to partner where you're already at work? And to see how God creates these connections, these avenues to lock arms with other believers and to launch into new things. It's super exciting. And before we talk about more of what we're going to be doing this year through Beyond Missions, I want us to be able to fully celebrate what all that happened last year in 2022. And so you guys have been really good at celebrating, and I don't want to say we're celebrating not like us, like, yay, good job, us. This is like holy cow, look at God, let's celebrate God, all right? So there's going to be a lot of clapping. I'm just telling you that there's going to be a lot of clapping, and your hands are going to hurt after a while because you're clapping so much, and your voice is going to get a little sore because you're screaming so much, but you're not screaming for you, and you're not clapping for you. You're screaming and we're clapping for Jesus. And so last year, we started off the year with some big vision, God-sized vision, and so we put some God-sized prayer behind it, and we saw truly God show up in amazing ways. At the start of the year, we dropped a large sum of money to purchase a train car full of soybeans in an area of the world along the Silk Road area to an unreached nation, a Muslim majority nation. So Christians are there, but they're small. And there's not, like Jeff was saying, an adequate witness there. And so in order for missionaries to get into these hard to reach places, the only way that they can get visas, the only way that they can even be in country is to start a business. And so we helped them start a business by buying soybeans. So we call this a BAM, a business as mission. They were able, they've been there for the last several years working alongside farmers, teaching them how to grow soybeans. And then as that continued to expand, they're like, you know what, we can do more than just grow soybeans. We should do something and process the soybeans. So they came up with this business to be able to make chicken feed out of soybeans. And they're like, but we've used all the soybeans because this chicken feed business is going really well, and we have an opportunity to expand, so we need to buy more soybeans. And so we helped them buy a train car full of soybeans so that, one, they can employ more local believers in their business, but more importantly, they were able to expand and they could get more visas to send more workers to this hard-to-reach area. And so we were like, all right, God, if it means buying soybeans to be able to go and send people and be able to make disciples who make disciples, then that's what we're going to do. We're going to buy soybeans. And it was like, not just like a funny way how God was like opening doors through soybeans, but we were actually able to send a media team as well to capture the God story of what is happening in this part of the world. And through that, we were able to tell that story, which then helped raise additional funds for them to be able to grow and impact that part of the world. And so CLF, you gave $17,229 towards reaching the unreached in 2022. That's a celebration moment right there. That's our first of many, all right? That's a big deal, but that's not all. We partnered with Daryl and Sarah Jump, the area directors of Central Eurasia and lived at Silk Road. And they travel around investing in missionaries and disciple makers throughout Central Eurasia. Last year, we sent just a small team to one of their winter conferences to serve and invest in their team there. Well, this year, we sent 12 people with a youth team, a hospitality team, a tech, and a media team, and we were able to serve 250 missionaries and missionary kids at this winter conference. We believe that when we invest into equippers like Daryl and Sarah Jump, and through their winter conference and their training week, we are maximizing the amount of impact that we can have because God has placed them in strategic places with strategic people who are launching disciple-making movements and house churches all along the Silk Road. And so you, CLF, we gave $11,904.51 to invest in equippers in 2022. Come on, make some noise for that one. So good. But that's not all. I know some of you already know this, but we sent a team this past November to help launch the first adult and Teen Challenge Center in El Salvador. Teen Challenge is a very successful Christ-centered drug and alcohol addiction recovery program. There's over 220 residential programs throughout the United States and several hundred throughout the rest of the world, but there were none in El Salvador. So this past year, we not only gave, but we actually went and we sent a team to help build the very first Teen Challenge Center. Also, last year, we partnered with one of our local ministries partners, the Hannah Center, which is a refuge home for women in crisis. And they've been open and located in Marshfield since 1993. Well, last year, they aggressively started raising funds to open a Hannah Center location in Wisconsin Rapids to meet a need that we have here in our own community. Last year, through Beyond Missions, we helped them reach their fundraising goal to be able to purchase property and launch the Wisconsin Rapids Center this year. CLF, you gave $32,607.76 to restore hope in 2022. Let's go. But that's not all. Because of your faithfulness and sacrificial giving, we kept 40 international missionaries and disciple makers on the field in 2022 through your faithful giving. CLF, you gave $51,900 towards international missions in 2022. But that's not all. Because of your faithfulness and sacrificial giving, you helped our local ministry partners and ministries to serve our community in ways that reflect the love of Jesus in real and tangible ways. Our community has even a greater Christ-centered response to serving people on the margins of our society, the forgotten and the neglected ones, the hurting and broken. CLF, you gave $27,700 to our regional and community partners in 2022. And you know what I'm about to say, but that's not all. Because God's not done working. Let's take just 10 seconds before I start to share and give vision for what we're going to be doing and partnering with God for this year. Again, this is not about us. This is about what God is doing. So let's praise God for how he's moving in our community and around the world. One more time, let's give it up for Jesus today. Come on. Come on. So, Pastor Jeff told you a few, but this year, through Restoring Hope, we are going to be partnering with First Choice Pregnancy Resource Center, and we're going to adopt a room. First Choice Pregnancy Resource Center. Oh, no, wait, I'm going to give you a chance. Okay, I see. My bad. I'm sorry. I see. First Choice Pregnancy, she works there. First Choice Pregnancy Resource Center has been serving our community since 2012. Their mission is to reveal the love of Jesus by providing pregnancy and parenting support, empowering women and men to make healthy and educated decisions for the future. They exist to advocate and to walk alongside anyone trying to turn the page in the next chapter of life. This year, we're going to renovate, and I said adopt a room because that's just kind of a fun phrase to say, but we're going to be renovating not just one room, but we're going to be renovating several of the rooms and spaces. Since 2012, they've had thousands of people walk through their doors. They've been able to walk alongside men and women in crisis to walk through all the way from conception moments to all the way to pregnancy and through to delivery, and help them set up to be godly parents. And here's the interesting thing about what First Choice is doing with their parenting classes, their advocates. Folks don't realize it, but they're signing up in these parenting classes to be discipled. That's what it is. Because what we know, right, is that in order to be a good parent, we have to be connected to our Heavenly Father. To be a godly mom, to be a godly dad, we need to first be connected to our Heavenly Father. And so they're signing up and being like, yeah, I don't know how to be a dad. I don't know how to be a mom. I need help. And so they're like, okay, well, first, you need to know Jesus. You need to know our Heavenly Father, God. And through this process of real discipleship, folks at the end of these classes are coming to go, man, I need God. I need Jesus in my life. And it's transforming not only their lives, it's transforming future generations as well. And so thousands of people have showed up. And thousands of people have sat on these couches and sat in these waiting rooms and have sat in all these different rooms, and they have been used and abused to the glory of God. And they need a fresh coat of paint. They need new couches. They need new decor. I mean, 2012, it was a good year, but thank goodness our decor has changed and styles have changed over the years. So it's time to bring a fresh look. So the moment somebody walks into this center, they're going, holy cow, I can see that this place is valued, that people care about this place and they care about me. And so we want them to sense the love of Jesus the moment they walk in. So not only are we gonna give, but we're gonna have some work days. We're gonna get our hands dirty. We're gonna throw some paint on the wall, and then we're gonna have somebody come behind you and make all the paint smooth and look nice, okay? But we're gonna work. We're gonna put furniture together. We're gonna rip up carpet and put down new flooring. We're gonna do the whole thing, and we're gonna make it look beautiful in there. Why? Because the people that are walking in there need to know that they are valued, and their life matters, and their lives that they're carrying matter to Jesus as well. Can I get a good amen on that? So, in a similar vein, we are going to be working with the Hannah Center to also adopt a room. They have a projected location that they're honing in on to be able to set up a permanent location in Wisconsin Rapids. Once they get all that set up, same thing. We're going to come in. We're going to buy all the furniture that is needed to outfit a room so that when women and children in crisis show up, they have a good bed, not like one of those beds, like a good bed, and feel safe and secure and beautiful things that when they walk in, they go, man, I can see that I am loved and valuable to God. Also through Restoring Hope, over the last few years, whenever there's been a global disaster, a regional disaster that's taken place, we've taken special offerings to be able to help support and bring some immediate aid to those regions of the world. Think about last year, we helped and we took an offering to send support for refugees that were affected by the war in Ukraine. Even last week, we took a special offering to be able to send response and aid and support for those that were affected by the earthquake in Turkey and Syria. And as we've kind of seen this, we know that we want to have a reflex of generosity in those moments, but we also know that it's difficult for sometimes something pops up and we're not in a financial situation to be able to give towards that. And so we want to be able to have a response that we can give where we all, because of our faithful giving each month and each week, we can have and be able to mobilize our funds to be able to support these disasters that come up unexpectedly around the world. And I wanted to give you a quick update about the response that we are taking through Beyond Missions to meet the real need that's happening in Turkey. And just to give a little bit of a frame here, right now the death toll is over 44,000 people. 44,000 people. Again, perspective I think is important. That's the entire population of Wisconsin Rapids, Nakusa, and Port Edwards. Gone. Times 2, actually. Gone. Many of those people didn't know Jesus. They're in a Muslim majority country. Don't know Jesus. And I believe we have an opportunity as the church, the global church, as Christians, to be able to meet a real need. Hundreds of thousands of people are homeless now. They're living in tents. They don't have adequate anything. And we have people on the ground right now. We have missionary partners that are there. And so we've been dialoguing with them. We've been talking with them. And I wanted to show you just a quick update video of some of the work that they're doing and the goals that they have to meet this huge, massive need in southern Turkey and meet it through presenting meeting real needs because of the love of Jesus. Here's a quick video.
So we're down here in Iskenderun, right outside the province of Hatay, where it has been terribly hit by the earthquakes that started on Monday morning at 4 a.m. There are many, many people that have lost their lives due to this earthquake. People are waiting outside the rubble to see if their family is pulled out. Last week when Brandon and I went to take food out to give to the people who were waiting for their family to be pulled out of the rubble, we hugged so many people. There's no words to help somebody to comfort them in a time like this, but just that human touch of saying that we're here, that we love you, and we want to help in any way we can. Right now, the big need here is to build soup kitchens in the affected area to get hot meals to these people that are living on the street. We are trying to purchase containers so that we can set up kitchens inside the containers. We know that people are going to have to stay serving meals in these areas for a few months to come. We have many, many, many thousands of people living in tents, and they don't have a way to cook food. So having a soup kitchen is life-giving. It's difficult, but we know that the church in America is praying for us. We know that you all are with us in this, and we're thankful that you guys are supporting us through finances and your prayers. We ask that you guys continue to pray. Don't pray just one time. Pray daily for us. Pray for the people that have lost loved ones. Pray that this Muslim country, that they would know the love of their Heavenly Father who created them. Thank you.
So through Beyond Missions, through your faithful giving, on top of what came in last week through the special offering, we're mobilizing more funds, and we are sending this week $5,000 to help set up multiple soup kitchens in those areas to help meet that need. There's something really unique that I feel like our church has had opportunity to, and I wanted to kind of just give you, again, an important perspective. Brandon and Samantha, we were with them in Germany for about a week and a half at this winter conference, and we were just able to serve them and pour into them, and heard about the unique way that God had opened up doors for them to live in southern Turkey to be able to start a new BAM. And they showed up, they're like, right after this winter conference, we're flying to Turkey, and we're going to be setting up this BAM. We're so excited to do this. It's been a long road. There's been lots of obstacles that we've had to deal with, but it's finally been working for about a year and a half, almost 2 years. And they're like, we can finally set up this business and to be able to live and make disciples in this area of Turkey. And they land, and 2 days later, the earthquakes hit. And their entire business model just got thrown out the window. And they're like, this is why. God gave us a heart for this region of Turkey 2 years ago, and we could have already been there, because there's been other times that things move quickly, and it's been obstacle after obstacle, waiting after waiting, and getting approval from the government to go there to set up this business. And then 2 days before they get there, and then this earthquake hits, and they are on the ground, able to start giving immediate resources and needs. They showed up man, I love how God opens doors. So I'm sorry, I get super excited about this stuff, but I can also get emotional, so I apologize. We were talking to them within days after the earthquake, just making sure they're okay. And they're like, we feel like God has given us new direction and how we're going to be able to just love people well and introduce them to Jesus, but meet a real need that's here. And they're like, but we need help telling the story. They're like, can we send you like just a ton of video and photos, and can you just make a video for us so we can send it out to over 100 plus churches? And I'm like, send it, like, let's go, let's do this thing. And I got off the phone with him. I was like blown away. I was like, God, out of all of the Assemblies of God churches in the United States, they called CLF. The 2-year journey that they were on to land there, we built a relationship with them, and we're investing in them for a week. And then when it came down to it and they needed somebody to have their back, they called CLF. And not only that, I'm going, that God has positioned us with gifts and talents that go beyond just writing a check, that go beyond just sending money. God has positioned us, CLF the movement, to meet needs that we don't even understand to the greatest capacity. I mean, again, we were able to quickly mobilize, cut them a video, we send it out. And it's being played in hundreds of churches this morning, just like ours, hundreds of churches. I don't even know, but I'm so thankful that there will be resources that get funneled into meeting that need. Because when all the humanitarian aid organizations leave Turkey, they're not. They're staying there. They're staying there for the long haul. Come on, somebody, come on. And so this is what I get excited about. Because yeah, $5,000, that's awesome. That's bigger than any one person I think in here could do, at least more than I definitely could do. I love that we can all pull together, pull our resources and do this. And so I think of, that makes me think of Psalm 3:27. It says, never walk away from someone who deserves help. Your hand is God's hand for that person. Don't walk away, because your hand is God's hand for that person. And man, I'm just so thankful for what God is doing in us and through us. In 2023, we're also going to be investing in equippers like Pastor Nada, which you heard about with the church plant in Colby, Abbotsford. Super, super, super exciting. We're investing and Pastor Dobie Weasel, who's going to be making disciples and raising up leadership that are going to continue to make disciples who make disciples. All of this reminds me of Nehemiah, the story of Nehemiah in the Old Testament. And if you've never read the story of Nehemiah, it's awesome. It's unbelievable. But as we've been praying and preparing to share all of this with you, and just so you know, there's more that we're going to do. There was a booklet near you on a seat when you walked in, and it gives more detail about all the different projects that we're going to be working with. It tells you and shows you all the missionaries that we support around the world, all of our local ministry partners and missionaries that we support through Beyond Missions. And so I encourage you to take that, look about it, keep that also somewhere that you can be praying for those people, praying for our missionaries, praying for our missionary partners. But as we've been praying and preparing for this, God brought me back to the story of Nehemiah. Nehemiah was Israelite who was living in exile in Babylon. Jerusalem had been destroyed, and all of the Israelites had been taken away. God's people had been taken away, and were made to live in slavery and servitude in Babylon. And Nehemiah began to get a heart. God began to stir his heart, and he began to have a heart to go back and rebuild Jerusalem and set up Jerusalem as God's place again on earth. And so he goes to the king of Babylon and he says, hey, I want to go. I want to rebuild Jerusalem. And the king goes, okay. And not only gives him permission to go, releases him to go, but he also gives him all of the resources to do that. Gives him brick, gives him wood, gives him everything that he needs in order to build that. So Nehemiah goes and he starts building. And he's like, this is way bigger of a project than I could have imagined. And so he goes back to Babylon. He goes, I need people. I need my people to come with me. I need Israelites to come with me. And so he's like, okay. So he sends a bunch of exiled Israelites back to Jerusalem, and they organize by family in all different sections around the wall, and they start all together at the same time rebuilding the wall. And I was struck by this one thing, that each person had a spot on the wall. They each owned a portion of it. And that's what they did. It wasn't Nehemiah's job to do the whole wall. He just said, okay, this is your spot. Do what you can here and build. Okay, this is your spot over here. This is what you can do and you build. Okay, you got a really big family. You get a little bit bigger of a wall. Get them to work, all right? Get them to work. And it made me think about this. I by myself can't do all that God is putting in front of us to do. But I have a part to play. I have my part of the wall that I'm going to build, that I'm going to invest in, that I'm going to work to see God's kingdom expanded through what he's placed before us through Beyond Missions. And I want to invite you to ask Jesus, to ask the Holy Spirit this week, God, what's my part of the wall? What's my part to play in this? And again, we call this beyond because this is beyond what we can do. It's also above and beyond our regular tithes and offerings. This is sacrificial giving. We give to the local church, and we have things that we do here in the community regularly, but this is above and beyond just trusting God that what I'm going to commit to, he's going to cause it to happen. He's going to bring it in to happen. And so this is my challenge and this is my encouragement, because next week we're going to invite all of us to come here to hear from one of our amazing missionaries that's going to be here in person next week. And he's going to tell us about one more of the ways that we're going to be reaching the unreached. An awesome opportunity, awesome project. It's in the booklet, but you're going to get a chance to hear from him and hear some of the crazy, awesome God stories of what's happening in that part of the world. It is a sensitive part of the world, so I'm not even going to tell you the country. And I don't know. We might have to not stream it. Sorry. We'll figure that out next week. But I want us to come next week ready to be able to respond at the end of the service. And I'm giving you the heads up now. Next week, we're going to put a card in your hand, and we're going to ask you to put pen to paper and say, this is what I'm committing to next for 2023 through Beyond Missions. And I just want to kind of say this. This week, as you're praying, God, what's my part to play? For some of you, it might just be continuing what you're already doing. It's saying, this is what I give faithfully every month, every week to Beyond Missions. And I feel like God's saying, just be steady in that. Just continue in that. Just continue to be steady and run the race that God's marked off you. Do that. That's awesome. For some of you, he might be calling you to do a little bit more. He might be saying, okay, you trusted me with this much. I want you to trust me a little bit more. One of the awesome stories that came out of last year when we were buying this train car full of soybeans, we handed out little packages of soybeans. It's just like, hey, take this home, pray about what you're going to do. And there's one story that came back to us and said, they went home and they're going, God, what's my part to play with these soybeans, with giving to a Beyond Missions? Tell me what I'm supposed to do. And they felt like a little nudge from the Holy Spirit. It said, count the soybeans. And so they're like, all right. So they open up the package, dump them out, and they're like, 1, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, and they count them. And then they felt God say, now put 2 zeros on the end of that. That's your number. That's what you're going to give sacrificially this year. And I was like, yo, okay, God. All right. I love how creative our God is. I love how he speaks to us when we say, God, show me what's my part to play. What am I supposed to do? And so some of you, it might be even beginning to tithe for the first time so that you can get to the point of sacrificial giving. And so this is bigger than all of us. It's bigger than one person. We're not banking on one person to write a big old fat check to be able to do all this. And we're like, yeah, good for that guy. He got a bonus this year, so he can do that. No. This is all of our part to play. And we all get a hand in on what God is doing. And I get excited thinking about next year, all of us are going to be here. And we're all going to be cheering and going crazy and going nuts, celebrating all that God did in 2023. And to be able to see with spiritual eyes into the future that what we are investing in now has kingdom eternal purpose. Kingdom eternal purpose. And so I'm so thankful that we get to journey this way together this year. I'm going to invite us all to stand, and we're going to pray, and we're going to close. I remember, and I'll just say this, I didn't say this first service, but I remember the first time I felt God like, and the best way I could say it, it was like there was like a fire in my belly of like, oh my gosh, I'm supposed to do something. And I was working at a part-time job making like $8 an hour. This was 20 years ago, so $8 an hour was pretty good at the time. And I remember God said, give half your paycheck every month. Okay, so now I'm making $4 an hour. I was like, that $4 is for God and that $4 is for me. And I just remember living so simple for that year, but in total joy because of the obedience that I was honoring God with. And look, that was my story. That's what God told me to do. And I was obedient with that. And it changed the trajectory of my life in obedience and in the way that I handle money. I realized real quick, I was like, man, okay, guess I'm not going out to eat all the time. And I was like, looks like we're doing some pasta and red sauce again, But I realized I had the resources. I had the means to do it, but I wasn't being responsible with my spending. And so when I was obedient to God, I realized real quickly, oh man, I get to be crazy generous. And I get to see God move in radical, awesome ways in obedience to him. And so obedience to you might be giving financially. Obedience to you might be going on a missions trip this next year. Obedience to you might be going, hey, when you start throwing paint on walls at First Choice and at Hannah Center, I'm going to be there. I'm going to be there. And I'm going to be there the entire time. So what's God asking you to do? And so this week, we're going to ask him that. And the next week, we're going to put pen to paper. We're going to pledge and we're going to commit to it. All right? Let's pray. Father, I am so thankful for this movement of disciple makers in central Wisconsin that choose to live with less so that we can be mobilized to go into all the world, both near in our own backyards, in our own community, and across the world to help plant churches, to make disciples, to give food to those who have none. Lord, I thank you that there's obedience in this place. And so, Lord, I ask over this next week, speak to us. Show us what our part is to play, what our spot on the wall is to own this year in 2023 through Beyond Missions. And Lord, I ask just this week that it would be not only a clear word from you, but we would come back next week with joy in our hearts, ready to hear from our missionaries, but also ready to join with all those here as a part of CLF, God, and Beyond Missions to see you do something truly epic this year in 2023. We thank you, God. We love you. We praise you. We give you all the glory and praise and honor. We pray all this in your mighty name. And all of God's people said, amen and amen. God bless you. We'll see you next week. It's going to be a good one.